and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
Welcome to the Movie Wire.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We got a big show this week with 3 brand new reviews, and apparently nobody will compete with Christopher Nolan's new release. So we have 2 playing in theaters and another Movie Wire catch-up. This week on the show, Defy the Gods and Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Before he led a revolution, he survived one in young Washington. And finally, this week on the Movie Wire catch-up, when justice is broken, fury becomes the only law in The Furious. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows, a roar and a bursting of flame. The Movie Wire Podcast. You need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
After the Trojan War, Odysseus faces a dangerous voyage back home to Ithaca, meeting creatures like the Cyclops, Sirens, Calypso along the way in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
Tell me what you remember.
A wife? A son?
And then what?
We won the war. Help me go home.
This is a household waiting for master. I want you to choose me.
Ithaca's king is coming back.
No, he's not.
What would he do if he came back here and find all these suitors in his house?
You're pining for a daddy you didn't even know, like some sniveling bastard.
Who's looking after your wife and son?
Do you see?
My dad is coming home.
Bringing vengeance. Bringing it all.
I need everyone at this party dead.
I can still save them.
You're a man who needs to control his fate. But you cannot control this. That world is gone.
No one could stand between me and home. Not even the gods. Keep us straight! I think it's asleep.
In the last couple of days, I have now spent 7 hours viewing The Odyssey. My first viewing was on the smallest possible screen and theater I could see it at, and I will go into that in just a second. My second viewing was on the glorious IMAX screen. Now, here are my two opinions that when it comes to IMAX and the theater experience versus is the movie any good, this is a movie that's been heavy on promoting to see it on the biggest screen you can like IMAX, to the point of even coming out with an IMAX camera popcorn bucket. Now, I tend to look at this two ways. One is in regards to, is it a good movie theater experience to see it and spend the extra money on a premium screen? Is it good enough to watch in a small living room? If the movie banks on a spectacle of IMAX to bring people in, what is the experience like when it comes to streaming to watch it in your own comfort of your own home? And based on my two watches, here's my takeaway. While the Odessey is a spectacle on a premium screen and my enjoyment was lifted, there was still issues I had with it. In my viewing on the small screen, the amount of engagement I had was mere moments in the over 3-hour runtime. When it comes to the IMAX screen, yes, it was a sight to see. Now, Christopher Nolan is tackling a huge feat here as writer and director of Homer's The Odyssey. And his style does work here to bring some characters to life that, again, I will get into in just a second. But my disappointment is the most memorable obstacles of the books feels the most rushed for trying to cover so much material. It's a long movie to justify the material, but it feels rushed in moments and focuses on the moments that try to lead to something meaningful at the climax that never really happens. This would have been wiser from Nolan to split this movie up so we can actually feel it lead to something memorable. Now, Nolan is a better director than he is a writer. Here, the material is all present. It's how Nolan wants to interpret it. But at times, we can tell he feels he doesn't know how to tackle it even though he adapted it. Yes, The Odyssey hits all the cliff notes that you can find in a breakdown online. But that's what it feels like. We can tell he spends most of his time attempting to hit all the notes without adding anything thought-provoking that the books require you to think about or even feel. This is where Nolan is a better director than a writer, and I'm going to give him a backhanded compliment here, where let's take a look at the talent on screen. We have Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Elliot Page, along with John Leguizamo for some reason. But honestly, he does a decent job here. And of course, Matt Damon as Odysseus. But Anne Hathaway is the only one that we can tell has range in her character, along with Elliot Page. Every other character never reaches an arc or challenges range. Instead, Nolan uses his camera work to work around his characters to create emotion. Well, at times it just feels like our characters are just speaking their lines with the camera circling and stuff happening in the background. During my viewing on the small screen, I felt there was something off throughout the movie, especially when we get to the action sequence at the climax. But it became more prominent as I saw it on the IMAX screen, where I was looking for the flaws of what made me feel like this movie was off, and it's a good hint that this is the experience we're going to get when we see it on a small screen, where it almost feels kind of lazy. And don't get me wrong, we can see some spectacle to it, we can see some style to it, we can see some excitement around it, but there's a lingering feeling of the laziness of it. And I'll try and be vague here when it comes to the climax, where we take Odysseus and he's battling a big group of men. They come to battle him one by one and sometimes 2 versus 1. And as the camera is going, we can see everybody in the background running circles around the room, knowing there is nowhere to go. But they continue to just do circles against the wall around this intimate room because it looks good for the camera. But it becomes noticeable because the scene goes on too long and in an intimate setting. And our eyes start to wander and notice what's going on in the background. And I know there's going to be hardcore fans of this movie. I know there's going to be a lot of people that liked it. Whatever. Some are going to state, well, it's because of honor of going up one by one. But then it goes into the argument that why is everybody fucking running and not waiting their turn for a chance to battle? They're all just running around in circles. It becomes obvious that there is some character direction that's off here. If we are relying on the camera work and direction to give these characters depth instead of actual performances or material to give them something to strive for, it becomes obvious that there's some character direction that's off here. We are relying on the camera work here and the direction to give these characters depth instead of actual performances or material to give them something to strive for. Nolan is clever for a strategy to keep us engaged as an audience with the camera, but as we peel back the onion of elements of filmmaking, we start to see the flaws. But for the first time viewing, it can come across as entertaining, and helps with the pacing for it being a 3-hour movie. And did it feel like a 3-hour movie? It did to me. There was a couple moments in the second act that my eyes started to get heavy, as we almost hear Matt Damon sing us a lullaby as he recites his lines in his normal tone, his stone face, just merely speaking, with nothing of change to his tone, to say, pay attention to this line of dialogue because it's important, it's emotional, it's relevant, etc., etc. It was like watching high schoolers act out Shakespeare without knowing the meaning. When we don't get different elevations in acting, octaves, body language, it goes to show that the talent is just there to merely be voiceover work and not a performance. Now, the Odyssey, I know I'm focusing on the problems, the negatives, whatever, because there was a level of frustration for what Nolan decided to focus on. And for some, this will be enough. And for some, this will be more than enough. And for some that have read the material, it won't be enough. But for me, it wasn't enough. I can appreciate the spectacle for what it is, the momentum that was created from Nolan's Oppenheimer, but for a movie that should say something about humanity, purpose, destiny, morals, that use an adventure as its North Star, here the adventure is up front and center, just with not enough adventure, with the messaging getting lost in the weeds where moments of life lessons are just skated by. And with how much buzz there is about this movie prior to release and the clever marketing, along with 3.5 hours later after trailers and time investment, some might not have the heart to say it wasn't as good as the buzz. But I fucking don't care. As a movie theater spectacle epic, it does the job it needs to do with fantastic audio and the visuals, especially with the Trojan horse scene that honestly I wanted more of. But another example of it skating by too soon and how this should have been split up. When it comes to the Trojan horse scene, the dialogue states what it was like on the interior, but I wanted a more gritty take on this. And that's the problem here. We have moments that the movie merely describes hardship, critical moments, but it really doesn't demonstrate it. It doesn't show what it tells. So all it becomes are moments that are on screen. It's like a burst of fireworks to keep your attention. The louder the better, because that's how we like our fireworks show. Bright and loud with good audio in the background. It succeeds in that. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, I have no doubt, will be a monster at awards time. And that will be a question mark for me if the little films nowadays even stand a chance. With a film that obviously has flaws. But I can appreciate it does drive people into theaters, so I will give credit to that. This is a movie I give credit to because it's driving people into theaters. Thank you, Christopher Nolan. But at the same time, it didn't do it for me. So as a theater experience, I'm giving The Odyssey 3 stars. As a film, I'm giving 2 stars. So let's just meet in the middle at 2.5 stars.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
Every line is crossed, nothing is sacred, no trope survives in Scary Movie, which was a misleading tagline because it didn't go far enough, which received 2 stars. We Deserve to Know and All Will Be Disclosed, which wasn't a Spielberg masterpiece, but gave enough hints of old Spielberg to make us feel comfy. In Disclosure Day, that received 3 stars. This Is the Way, based on the Disney Plus show, comes The Mandalorian and Grogu, that didn't feel like a Star Wars movie, but was still entertaining and a lot of fun, to receive 3 stars. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now. The more you look for, the more you find, if you're not careful, in the back rooms that hinted more at intrigue than results, to receive 2 stars. 1 dad, 3 kids, 0 clue, which should have read 1 comedian, 2 writers, 0 clue, in a movie that everybody is a moron in The Breadwinner, that received 0.5 star. The greatest train wreck in history. I wouldn't go that far, especially after seeing The Breadwinner, but still a missed opportunity with how much talent is involved and how little comedic timing is executed in Stomp That Train, to receive 2 stars. 130 million people take road trips every year. 15,400 of them are never seen again. In Passenger, that banks on atmosphere versus dialogue and characters to make it uncomfortable. So just watch it on mute. Passengers receive 2 stars. Be Careful What You Wish For in Obsession, that taps into uncomfortable social horror to be one of the best films of the year that received 3.5 stars. The Devil of Fashion returns with Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway reprising their roles in The Devil Wears Prada 2. That doesn't change much except for the relevance of time. So if you like the first one, you will probably like this one, receiving 3 stars. A crew of professional shoplifters take aim at a cutthroat fashion maven. It's like community service in I Love Boosters, and I loved a lot of it, but by the end I couldn't say I Love Boosters, receiving 2.5 stars. Surviving the crash is just the beginning in Rennie Harlin's Beef Water. That is better than all of his Stranger movies, and I'll just leave it at that to receive 2.5 stars. Witness the birth of modern Russia and the men that shaped it in The Wizard of the Kremlin, that if you pay attention and appreciate just the mere performances, it's worth a watch to receive 3 stars. Their Fight Our Future in Mortal Kombat 2, which was more memorable than the first film, but that's not saying much to receive 2 stars. Discover the Making of the King, the origin of an icon in Michael, that was pop full of energy and leaves us wanting more to receive 3 stars. When billions get stolen, meet the pros who steal it back in Guy Ritchie's In the Gray. And I gotta be honest, this is a first for the show. A movie that was so forgettable, I even forgot to even publish my review of it on the show. But, just so you know, I gave it 2 stars. As an in-the-moment, nothing better to do Guy Ritchie film that just spliced together his other movies. I blink, I twitch, I jump, I click, I whistle, I shout, and I swear is one of the best films of the year to receive 4 stars. Check in, we've been expecting you, and I wasn't expecting an eerie movie that leaves you in thought in Hokum that received 3 stars. It's down to the wire and Fuse that promises a good time but fizzles out halfway through the movie to receive 2 stars. Their Time Is Now, a cautionary tale in this retelling of Animal Farm, which my cautionary tale is not to ever watch this movie to receive 0 stars. Breakups are all in the execution and Over Your Dead Body, that was driven by the fantastic ensemble of great performances to receive 3 stars. The galaxy awaits in this Super Mario sequel that wasn't that super, but rather just an Easter egg sugar rush in the Super Mario Galaxy movie that received 2 stars. What Happened to Katie, and a take on The Mummy that made me want to go back to the Tom Cruise battling the Mummy and Lee Cronin's The Mummy that received 2 stars. Small Town, Big Secret that shows that Bob Odenkirk is a breakout, unexpected action star in Normal that taps into 90s fun of action films to receive 3.5 stars. Believe in Hail Mary that I believed was too long. I believed it looked great. I believed it was a good theater experience to receive 3 stars. Don't overlook any anomalies. Based on the video game comes Exit 8 for limited dialogue and based on a video game had a lot to say to receive 3 stars. Witness the Wedding of the Year and witness drama that doesn't stop after the reveal in The Drama that received 3.5 stars. New game, Fresh Blood, Double or Nothing, and Ready or Not 2 that didn't really add anything but subtracted the fun factor to receive 2 stars. Nature Can't Be Silenced in Disney Pixar's Hoppers that taps into all the emotions from heart to thrills for a perfect family adventure to receive 3.5 stars. Let Them Try in an admirable attempt at a survival thriller in They Will Kill You, but added nothing new to the table except moments of entertainment to receive 2.5 stars. And finally, Witches in Retail that mixes The Craft and Mean Girls, and I was all for the witty dialogue that drove the entertainment factor in Forbidden Fruits that received 3 stars. Now, before I get into the last set of reviews, there is a podcast that's become one of my weekly listening routines to give me a mental break from the stresses of work, and that is with J&K over the Fuck My Worklife Podcast. Make sure to follow and subscribe. The link to their show will be in the description of this episode. But let's hear from J&K over the Fuck My Worklife Podcast now.
Have you ever had a bad day at work?
Well, the Fuck My Worklife Podcast is perfect for you.
Host J&K share listeners' entertaining stories from the workplace, which may have you thinking you don't have it so bad after all.
Find Fuck My Worklife on your favorite podcast platform.
A young George Washington faces war, betrayal, and impossible choices that will forge a leader in young Washington.
Why can I not become a British officer?
Because you are not British, George.
There must be a path.
There is not for you.
Go dig my grave. Oh, it's wide and deep.
I sense a storm looming over the Ohio territories.
I could go there, survey it for you.
So you have ambition. Since the Crown sent me to serve, I've yet to have a good experience with a colonist.
I look forward to changing your opinion.
Much of that territory is unexplored. It's wild, unpredictable, and dangerous.
What are you called? George Washington.
Whose fort is that?
It's the French. And land claimed by the British Crown.
Demand the French leave.
Who does own this land, if not the one who has the will to tame it? Tell your king we will never leave.
Then they will force you to leave.
Oh.
These are not the open battlefields to which you're accustomed.
I have fought in a great many battlefields.
Not in the New World, sir.
If you fail, I'll have the colonial to blame.
This is a direct order, and we will obey it! Fire!
It's not your fault, George.
Major Washington.
You lost.
You started a war!
George, there's no fairness here.
That is not the way the world works. Then someone should remake it.
Choose your path. Make it yours.
Forward!
And prove them wrong.
You know, there is no doubt, I think, from anybody that George Washington, of course, is a pivotal part of history. There is no doubt that he had a major role in shaping America. There is no doubt that he had a level of bravery at the time of American history. There is no doubt that it is such a big topic that most of Hollywood steers away from attempting to tackle it. There is also no doubt that there is a lot we don't know about what happened behind closed doors with conversations between Washington and others. But I do have doubts that George Washington didn't go into battle John Wick style only to come out with bullet holes in his uniform and bullet holes in his hat, and he went untouched in battle. But again, it's about the themes, the messaging that Angel Studios always presents. Yes, this is another new film from Angel Studios, as Angel Studios tries to tell the tale of young George Washington, and they try to fill in the blanks from unknown knowledge to make this film an entertainment spectacle, to give a message of leadership, bravery, etc., etc. Young Washington stars William Franklin Miller in his first real big screen appearance as young George Washington. That certainly has the jawline that we see on dollar bills. And given the material, he does an okay job here, but that's not saying much given the simplistic material. Especially with simplistic lines filling in the blanks between action scenes to fill in the runtime. Washington we see from a kid to his 20s grow with no land, no education, no experience, but the will to be part of the British Army before America was formed. And we were up against the French. This is all prior to 1775, when Washington had participated in a different political view, that he would soon refuse the crown to seek out an independent nation. I guess that's the gist of it in simplistic terms, to not turn this review into a history lesson. And that's what this movie does as well, is give us simplistic snippets of history, even if Washington's story is blurred. We see him battle, we see him lead, we see him go from major to colonel, but the problem I have is that this all seems too fast, it seems too easy, even if the dialogue hints and challenges that Washington had flaws. We have a great cast here to present history, including Ben Kingsley, Kelsey Grammer, Andy Serkis, Jodo Davis, and I can't resist, forgive me, Leo Hanna from Cocaine Bear. You can't have a George Washington movie without Leo Hanna from Cocaine Bear. These are some talents that demand screen time to deliver what could be some powerful dialogue-driven scenes, but they are also supported by a list of no-names. But the fact Angel Studios got this short list of talent is still impressive. And this is going to what's lead to the true flaw of the film, is that this screams a dialogue-driven, informative film, but the dialogue is limited to just driving into the next scene of traveling muskets and cannons. There is a scene where Washington sneaks into a party hoping to get the chance to serve in the house of Lord Fairfax, again here played by Kelsey Grammer. And it's a scene that we could have spent 15 to 20 minutes really enjoying conversations back and forth to earn Washington's right to prove himself. But it's cut short to get on to the next obstacle for Washington, which leads into the next problem with the film, which is too many characters to focus on. Young Washington focuses on the bravery of how to be a leader, to become a leader, and the strength that can come from failing as a leader. The film gives us simplistic dialogue to conquer these themes, but it's so simple that it feels too easy, where most of the time it's attempting to prove points in the battlefield, where in reality, yes, that was probably a big part of being a leader, is motivating troops, but also leadership behind the curtain that the movie skates by not to properly show. The leadership in words versus actions. There are two big pieces of leadership here, and the movie focuses on one aspect of it, is to show what is a leader on the battlefield, not in negotiation. And by the time we get to the climax, we get almost a final stab at a stand-up and cheer speech from Washington, and we pan by characters that we see pop up in the movie that Washington encounters, with quick interactions throughout the movies with these characters, and the movie expects us to care, because we don't get enough time to build the chemistry with these characters. This includes an emotional scene with our cocaine bear actor Leo Hanna that we see brief scenes spread throughout the movie, but the dialogue never really reaches to a point where we should feel something during this emotional moment. It always feels like the movie is trying to cover a long time frame with too many characters, which goes into the theme of this episode, apparently, of trying to cram too much instead of treating the material with respect and taking box office dollars off the table and creating another movie. But I will give this film a lot of credit. Where the battle scenes are done extremely well, it brings us back to a time where we look at how we used to battle, where conversation, fairness, honor, even though brutal, I think the movie isn't brutal enough, given the times. But it's almost like watching a family-friendly reenactment, where we can see some benefit to that. I can see this as an introduction, if you will, to piquing interest into learning more about George Washington, or giving simplistic visuals into encouraging people to want to learn more. And I think there's something this film does well, is just that, is just give enough entertainment value to want to Google and do their own research. Now, I doubt this was the movie's intent, but I can still see the value in that. Angel Studios' go-to director, John Irwin, we can see his challenge here, with not just telling another motivational biopic like Jesus Revolution or American Underdog. He keeps to what he's comfortable with, without dipping his toes into anything crazy. The direction is very straightforward and safe, but we can see utilization of him being tempted on really leaning into the environment to again give us a simplistic look into the world of the 1700s. This is a movie that does cover heavy topics and make us wonder if this truly should have been a PG-13 movie or gone all in for a rated R movie. These are uncertain times, brutal times, a new world of the unknown, and war. When we take these times, it's a question: when we get a George Washington movie, should we really have a PG-13 movie? Or call it what it is and make it go all in, make it rated R? I guess it's about making an Angel Studio motivational film of taking a harsh topic and making a positive message versus showing what reality was back then. So, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the viewer. Do you want a motivational George Washington movie to make you stand up and cheer, or do you want some substance to really see a George Washington movie with some historics behind it? So it really comes down to the viewer and what they want to see from a George Washington movie. Do you want a George Washington movie to make you stand up and cheer, make you feel good, or do you want reality of what actually happened, of just facts? It all comes down to that. It comes down what you want from a George Washington movie. Reality versus a message of leadership that wants to inspire. But nevertheless, it's a brave attempt by all involved. I will give the movie that. It's not a horrible movie, and it does have its moments, so for that, I'm giving Young Washington 2 stars.
It's time for the movie wire catch-up. It's time for the movie wire catch-up.
father fights fiercely against ruthless kidnappers to save his abducted daughter in The Furious.
Every star I carry fuels the flame.
You're looking for someone.
So am I.
My wife went missing.
And there you go. You have the entire script in the trailer. That's as much dialogue that's in The Furious. You know, recently I was at a fireworks show for the 4th of July, and the events that had leading up to the fireworks show, it was all fun. Then the actual main event happened, and the music came on. Was some of the worst audio I have ever heard. The speakers were crackly, it was weak, it felt like one Bluetooth speaker to fill a stadium of thousands of people. And as the fireworks went off, I was getting bored. There was no rhyme or reason of the pattern to coincide with the awful music I was hearing. They were just lighting off fireworks to make them go boom. And as the show went on for the entire 23 minutes, I kept looking at the time because it felt like an hour. The Furious reminded me of that experience, but not because it was boring, but quite the opposite. It's because it knows how to tickle the senses. From choreographed fight scenes to the music, the editing, it all worked together to create a mindless, pointless, simplistic 2-hour spectacle that shouldn't be as fun and entertaining as it is. But here's the deal. The Furious knows exactly what it wanted to be and what it actually is. A 2-hour fight sequence with a basic story that lingers in the background to not bog down, all the action. The Furious reminded me like a live stunt show from Universal Studios, where its sole intent is to show you some fun sequences, one after another, that makes you go, wow, and merely entertain. There is a moment in The Furious where we have our protagonist Wang, played by Miao Chi, who is a mute father whose daughter gets kidnapped in a child trafficking ring. And in this scene, him and our antagonist both pick up bicycles from the street and start to duel with these bikes. Yes, of course it's ridiculous. It seems inconvenient to duel with holding a heavy bike. Why not? Just use hands, rock, some cool kicks. But that wouldn't be as fun. The mere idea of it, I thought to myself, why? Then I answered my own question, because this is a movie about showing you something fun and entertaining, something different, something ridiculous, over the top. And our director, Kenji Tenanaki, pulls it off. Once we get past the idea of what we are seeing, Tenanaki shows us that he can make even the most ridiculous idea work as an action sequence, an action spectacle. And at this mere point of the movie, we shouldn't be surprised at what Tenanaki is going to show us. The movie adds in tools and props in its settings that we know is inserted just to give us that cool moment, like bodies in ice bricks or huge ice bricks in a warehouse that we know don't make sense. But we don't care because we know Tenanaki is going to show us something cool with it. And for the entire runtime of 2 hours, there is a lot of cool things that happen. Now, those that have listened to my John Wick reviews know that I have a John Wick curse, where no matter what, I always tend to fall asleep at some point. And just so you know, I never fall asleep at movies. And to this day, I don't know what it is about the John Wick films that make my eyes sleepy. I can only theorize that it's the constant humming of gunfire, the structured choreographed fight scenes, or a 25-minute running up the stairs, shoot 'em off climax. Now, they're not bad movies, but the fight scenes tend to linger too long for my taste. That's the only reason I can think of why it's just repetitive to me. And here we have a constant, ongoing 2 hours of pure action with a couple of moments to remind us that, hey, there's a story or a plot somewhere in here. And I never was bored or even wanted to take my eyes off the screen for a mere second, because our director, Tenanaki, keeps each scene unique and fresh to make us ponder what he's going to do next. And as the movie goes on, the action gets more clever and quicker to ensure we are never slowing down. We're always seeing something new. But as we get to the climax, we do feel, as we get into our final boss moment, if you will, there could have been a little bit more focus throughout the movie to home in on our antagonist And I did get the sense that we could have gotten more of a story focus on our kids in peril, or even a couple of our side characters, because the movie does have almost a united community coming together at the end to do right. A stand-up and cheer attempt at the climax. And while it does mildly feel good to see during the climax, I wish the build would have spent maybe 10-15 minutes throughout the movie to really home in on this community element, the stand-up and cheer moment, the feel-good moments, where we're walking out with a smile on our face, feeling good, even with bloody violence in the background. And this includes a side character, a police officer that we can tell wants to do the right thing. But we get hints of a corrupt police chief that creates a roadblock. Building more stake in this character would have made the climax more effective and encouraged me to really stand up and cheer and feel really good walking out of the theater. But this was a mild miss. The film is focused on its roots of what it wants to be, but having this moment feel effective would have taken the movie up an octave when it comes to rewatchability and be more memorable. But instead, we are left with just more action during the climax that I wouldn't say outdoes the other fight scenes for being the final boss, but it still is fun. Now, The Furious is a slippery slope to try and review. The story is basic, it's not thought-provoking, the script had to be at most 15 pages long of actual dialogue, if that. Our characters are merely there to fight with really no growth. In a lot of ways, this is just watching a UFC fight for 2 hours with cool props to kill. But sometimes we go to the theater or pop on a movie where we don't need something to make us feel or think. We just want to marvel at the skill of what filmmakers can do to entertain us. And that's exactly what our filmmakers do here, is truly create an over-the-top action spectacle that wants to put on a show, and it gets the job done with sticking to what it knows and what it wants to be. I'm giving The Furious a solid 3 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll. We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.
Matt Damon.